Welcome back. We're diving into something a little different this time, but something I think we all crave.
Building positive habits that actually, stick around.
Yeah.
Not just those New Year's resolutions that fizzle out by February. We're going deep, folks, and we've got some seriously interesting sources to unpack.
But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's define what we're talking about here. When we say positive habits,
What exactly do we mean? It's got to be more than just, like, eat your veggies and go to bed early, right?
right, it's deeper than that. Think of it like this. It's not just about the good behaviors themselves.
Okay.
It's the chain reaction they set off. These small positive actions are like compound interest, but for your well-being. It's kind of amazing when you think about it.
I'm hooked already. So
Mhm.
we're talking about simple actions, daily things that snowball into something bigger.
Exactly. Take something as simple as a daily walk.
Okay.
We tend to think, oh, it's good for fitness, which it is, of course.
But it goes way beyond that.
Right.
It can boost your mood, help you sleep better, even spark creativity. And those wins, they fuel even more wins. It creates this amazing upward spiral.
Okay, I'm seeing how this is different from the usual just have more willpower advice. This is about strategy.
Which is way more my speed.
Right.
So where do we start? Our sources seem to agree that picking one habit is key.
They do.
But why just one? Why not go all in, tackle everything at once?
I get it, that new year, new me energy is tempting. But here's the thing. Our brains are actually wired to focus on one thing at a time.
Really?
Yeah. Spreading ourselves too thin leads to what psychologists call goal fatigue. Ever start a million projects and finish none? It's the same idea.
Oh, all the time, yeah.
Exactly. But when you pick one habit, nail it down, make it automatic.
That becomes the foundation for building more. It's like you're
Okay.
building this incredible muscle of self-discipline, one rep at a time.
I like that. Okay, so say I've picked my habit. What's next? Goal
I know.
setting. Right.
You're catching on. But it's not just about writing down, I want to do this. It's about digging deeper. Let's say your goal is to journal every day.
Okay.
Ask yourself, why? What's the deeper motivation? Is it for self-reflection, stress reduction?
I could even see it being a creative outlet, like a writer's journal.
Exactly. Knowing your why, that deep down reason, that's what fuels you to stay consistent, even when it gets tough.
Speaking of consistency, I have to bring up this whole 21 days to form a habit thing.
Oh, yeah.
Our sources debunked that pretty thoroughly, and honestly, I'm kind of relieved.
I'm not surprised. That 21-day figure, it came from a study back in the 60s.
A while ago.
Yeah. And while it was well-intentioned, it had some limitations. More recent research suggests it's closer to 66 days on average. But even that's not a magic number.
So what is it then, if it's not about hitting a certain number on the calendar?
It's about building those neural pathways, those connections in your brain.
Oh, I see.
Think of it like walking the same path through a forest every single day. Eventually, you don't even need to think about where to put your feet. You just go.
Yeah, autopilot.
Exactly. So no shortcuts, just consistent effort over time. Our brains are amazing, but they need that repetition to truly make a habit stick.
Makes a lot of sense. Now, once we've put in the work, the consistent effort.
What else can help cement this new habit? I know one thing our sources mentioned really resonated with me, and it's tracking progress.
It's a powerful one.
Because there's something so satisfying about checking those boxes, seeing your progress laid out visually.
Right. And there's a fascinating neurological reason for why that works. Visualizing those check marks, those streaks on a calendar,
Yeah.
it activates the reward system in our brains. It's like we're tricking our brains into craving that good habit.
I'm all for a little brain trickery if it gets results.
Exactly. And this ties into another powerful tip from the source. Rewards.
Oh, yeah. Got to celebrate those wins.
Absolutely. It doesn't have to be anything huge. Even small rewards help reinforce that positive feedback loop.
Makes sense. Okay, we've covered the foundational stuff, which is super valuable on its own.
But I know our sources get into some really interesting bonus tips too, and I want to make sure we touch on those. One that stood out to me was visual reminders.
Those are great.
I'm a total Post-it note person, so this one really resonated.
It seems simple, but it's all about harnessing the power of context, that sticky note on your mirror. It's not just a reminder, it becomes linked to that habit in your brain.
So it's like my brain sees the note and goes, oh, right, time to meditate, or whatever the habit is.
Exactly. And this next tip from the source is one of my favorites, the accountability partner.
Oh, tell me more.
It might seem counterintuitive, but sharing your goals with someone, even the struggles,
Yeah,
it can be incredibly motivating. It taps into the social aspect of habit formation.
Because misery loves company.
Well, it's more like shared experience builds connection. But seriously, studies have shown that having someone to celebrate those wins with, and offer support during setbacks
Yeah.
makes a huge difference.
I believe it. Okay, last but not least, I want to touch on something the source brought up that I think is so crucial, and that's self-compassion.
It's so important.
It's so easy to fall into that all or nothing thinking, especially with new habits. One slip up and we feel like we failed.
Right, and that negative self-talk.
Yeah.
It's not just emotionally draining, it actually hinders progress.
For real.
Yep. It floods your brain with stress hormones, and those are basically the enemy of forming new habits.
So being kind to ourselves during this process is actually essential.
Absolutely. It's about progress,
Yeah.
not perfection, and remembering that is key.
I love that. Okay, wow, we've covered so much ground in this deep dive.
From choosing the right habit to the powers of consistency, tracking, rewards.
Even those bonus tips like visual reminders and accountability partners.
And self-compassion, don't forget that.
Right, of course. It's all connected. But before we wrap up,
Any final thoughts to leave our listeners with?
the source really emphasized celebrating those small victories.
They did, yeah.
So here's a question for you all to ponder. What's one small but meaningful step that you can take today towards building that positive habit you've been thinking about?